What is good, everybody? Tunji again from Ceasar Graphics. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and remember to ring that bell so you will be notified when I post my tutorials. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create this lovely looking movie poster. All right, so without any further ado, let's jump into today's tutorial. So let's create a new document. So I'll click on File and I'll select New. So I'm going to give this project the rescue, and my width is going to be 720, height is going to be 900, resolution is going to be 100 because I'm posting this on my Instagram page. And I'm going to click on the create button. So I'm going to click on my foreground color picker, and I'll change the color of my foreground to the same 5. Click on the one. We're going to set up OK. So I'll create a new layer and I'll call this BG1, which is background. I'll click the OK button. So I'll use the shortcut on my keyboard to apply the color of my foreground to my BG layer. So I'm just going to drag this and drop like so. So I'll click new layer icon and I'll call this fill. All right, so I'm going to apply the color of my foreground to this layer. So I'm going to select the brush tool. I'm going to increase the size of my brush and turn on the transfer option here. All right, so if you don't have a graphics tablet, you can easily play with the flow. Okay, so you can make the flow 15 and you're going to get the same result I'm about to get now. So I'm just going to apply the brush to the layer. So I'm just going to apply it here. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new layer again, and I'll call this fill 2. And this time I'll use the darker tone of my foreground color. I'm going to create a light layer. All right, so I'm going to call this lights, and I'll select OK. So this should be behind the layer of my character, and I'm going to switch from my background to my foreground. All right, so just in case you want to know the color code that I use, so this is it over here, and I'm going to click on the OK button, and I'm just going to apply the brush to this side of my project. Now I'll create a new layer there. I'll form it light again, and I'll use a lighter tone of that previous color that I use. So I'm going to reduce the size of my brush and I'll create a new layer, move all the layers. So it's going to call it lights. Just call it light 3, and I'm just going to apply the light to this side of the object. The next thing I'm going to do is to add more details to the face of my character. So to do that, I'll select the layer of my character and I'll hold on Alt and click to create a new layer, and I'll call this. I'll change it to soft light, and I'll check the fill with soft light neutral color 50% gray option, and I'm going to select OK. So next is to select the brush tool. So this is it over here. I'm going to increase the size of my brush. Okay, and I'm just going to brush here to add more details to the face of my character. This is the before and this is the after. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do again is to add a gradient map to the face of my character so as to give the face more depth. So I'm going to click on the gradient map option, and this should be above the layer of my character, and I'm going to click on this icon to apply it to just only the layer of my character. And I'll go straight to the gradient map editor, and I'm going to double click here, orange. All right, so I'm just going to push this down and make use the shade of orange. All right, click OK. Double click here, go straight with this shade of orange, and I'll select OK. Make this more darker. Little red to it, and you're gonna select OK. So I'm gonna select OK button here and change my blend mode to soft light, and I'll reduce the strength of my opacity. So this is the before and this is the after. So I don't want this to apply to all the part of the character. I'm going to reverse the mask of the gradient map by hitting the shortcut on my keyboard. All right, so I'm going to select brush tool now and reduce the size of my brush. I'm going to zoom in. Now I'm just going to apply it to the face, just like so. In doing this, you need to be very careful not to allow it to touch the eye of the character. I can even increase the opacity of this a bit, just like so. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is to put everything in a group, because we're about to stamp visible of all the layers. So I'm going to hit Ctrl G on my keyboard and call this. All right, so I'm going to hold on Ctrl Shift Alt and E to stamp visible of all the layers. So I am going to go to Filter, Blur, Gallery, and select Field Blur. All right, so I'm going to make this, let's say, okay, and I'm going to select OK. All right, now we don't want this to apply to the entire project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer mask, and I'll reverse the mask and select the brush tool, increase the size of my brush. Now make sure that your foreground is set to white. This is good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add noise to this. So I'm going to hold on Alt and click on the new layer icon, and I'm going to call this noise B, because this noise is going to be bigger. So I'm going to change this to soft like and click on this option again, and I'm going to select OK. I'll go to filter, noise, and select add noise, and I'm going to make this noise bigger, just like so, and I'll select OK. So I'm going to reduce the opacity of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on Alt, click and drag on the layer mask of the field blur layer and apply it to the layer of the noise. All right, so I'm going to call this field blur. So we have the noise on top part of the field blur layer. So we need to add another noise again, but this time the noise we're about to add is going to be very light. So I'll hold this lights, this box here, and click OK. So I'll go to filter again now, and I'll go to noise, and I'll select add noise. Now this time I'm going to use a very light noise, just very light, like so, and I'm going to select OK. Now I'm going to stamp visible of all the layers again and take this to camera raw. So I'm going to call this go to filter, then camera raw filter. So we'll start with the basic. So I'll increase the exposure just like so, and I'm going to push the contrast up like so. And for the shadow, I'll push that down. Okay. Now for the texture, because of the noise we have on the project, so I'm going to push that up to about this point, and I'll go down and increase the increase the vibrance just to add more on, to boost the color on the project. And I'll go to the sharpen option here, and I'm going to increase the sharpen just so as to bring more details to the noise. And I'm going to push this up like so. All right, and I'll go down to my HSL. I'll select the saturation and just reduce the orange a bit, just like so. And I think that's it. And I'm going to say that okay. So the next thing we're going to do now is to bring in our broken glass. Drag that and drop here. And so, all right. So I'll convert this to a smart object for this broken glass. So zoom out. I'll bring out the free transform. And I'll change the blend mode to screen. I notice we have this white field around our broken glass, so we need to take that out. Now go to image, adjustment, and select levels. Yeah, all right. And I'm gonna push this. All right, so I'm gonna select the OK button. Okay, and I'll make a copy of this so as to, make the glass effect more stronger. So I'm going to put this in a group. I'll call this B glass. All right. So I'm going to make a copy of this and I'm just going to rotate this. All right. Position this here. Position this somewhere here, just like so. And I'll add a layer mask. Select the brush tool. With the size of my brush, and I'm just going to take out do the same thing here. So I'll make a copy of this again, and this time I'm going to rotate this. Let's zoom out. One thing I'm going to do again is I'm going to create a new layer. I'll call this shadow. All right, so I'll select a brush tool, and I'll increase the size of my brush. Just apply the brush to the back of the layer and change this to multiply. I'm just going to reduce the opacity of this a bit. Drag and drop my launch image. So I'm going to drag that and drop here. And I'll scale this big. Then I'm going to change this blend mode to screen. Then I'll reduce the opacity. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my text. And that's going to be the last part of this tutorial. For the title, I use vinyl stick-on. So for the subtitle, I use Fedora Essence Pro. And then for those of you who always ask me how I get the movie credit, you can get that from Google. So just type movie credit and you are going to get different type of movie credit that you can use on your movie poster project.
I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have not subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button and remember to ring that bell so you will be notified when I post my tutorials. I'll see you guys again in the next one. Peace.